Good afternoon and welcome to Happy Hour at the Old Timer Tavern. My name is Rob, aka Lantern Noir. I am one of two amazing hosts for this podcast and live stream. And joining me is my amazing partner in crime,
Graybeard of Graybeard Tavern.
How was your week, sir?
Pretty good. My Masks game over at Indoor Adventures on Thursday night. My superhero who finally found his superhero name is he's going to be heartbroken, and it's going to be awesome. Because the playbook I'm playing has a love and a rival. Well, the love and the rival are getting together, and it's gonna kill him, and it'll be fabulous.
That's how you know you're a committed role player. Like, my character is going to hate every moment of this. It's awesome.
And that's I'll jump right to Sunday morning then, because I'm playing Grifflands, and I absolutely hate this character that I'm playing. So I have to like voice him, and he's kind of a bruh. And so I spend 2 hours on Sunday morning playing this character who is just, he has no redeemable qualities. He's just a horrible person. He's literally setting up his brother to be murdered by a movie star, an ex-movie star that he's talked into kill. It's insane and all wound crazy. But that's Sunday mornings at 10 Eastern Standard Time on my channel. And then I'm back to here. We didn't play our Grognard campaign this week because I had my 28th wedding anniversary Saturday.
Woo-hoo, congratulations.
Yeah. Oh my goodness, what a haul. I mean,
hey, you know, I've never passed up a chance to point out, I read an amazing blog article from someone who said that when you get married, the most you should get is a barbecue with 3 friends.
Yeah.
The parties come when you hit the 10, the 15, the 25, the 30-year marks, because that's an accomplishment.
Yep. When speaking of that real quick, when we had our 10th wedding anniversary, we renewed our vows. We had a Viking ceremony. Oh. And so we had, my brother was in the Ren fairs, and you know, we were all D&D nerds. So we had an oath ring, which was like 5 or 6 metals all wound together and made, that my brother forged into an oath ring. And you know, we had traditional garb and stuff. It was a good time. We had axe throwing and spear throwing and stuff, and you know, we grilled in big fiery pits and stuff. So it was, you know, good times.
Awesome.
So,
well,
yeah.
I mean, congratulations. It's a shame you couldn't game, but I think your excuse will survive. Welcome, Neutrino. Glad to have you hanging out in the chat with us today, as we're going to take a serious stroll down memory lane, which for my gaming, I kind of did that this week because Friday night I finally broke the seal on Mass Effect Legendary Edition, and I have never played 1 and 2. I've only played 3 about 3/4 of the way through, so I'm like committing that I'm going to get through all 3 games.
Nice.
It'll probably take me a year and a half since I'm only playing it like 2 days a week.
Right.
But I'm gonna get it. And then Sunday night, my Sunday night campaign, my Ghostbusters, started Curse of Strahd.
Oh, that's right.
And we did actually get together. And it was a little bit weird too, because it was kind of cool. I mean, cool because Nebula and her husband both play with us, and they've been playing with us this whole time. But we had 2 cameras set up at their house, so they each had their own camera window. And they had separate mics, and one of the ongoing challenges has always been, how do we ensure that they aren't picking each other up?
Right.
Because you get just that slight 1/4 second delay for the echo. And so finally I kind of like, since they moved, I said, you know, how about you figure out a 1 cam setup? That would be really cool. So we actually have the layout now where I have my camera spot, there's Adam and Spinny, and then we've got Neb and Azteki in their own like wide view. like they're sitting at the sides of a table.
Okay, so it's not that you didn't take the wide angle of them and then cut it in half and put it in two.
I wasn't that
bits
crazy,
and bobs.
but
Okay.
I did give them their own window to kind of like emphasize they come as a matched set.
Nice.
So it was really fun. I forgot what it's like to run a sandbox game because like they go into Barovia and I'm like, what do you want to do? And like, what can we do? And I'm like, well, you could, and then they're exploring this, and then like they picked up a quest, and it's like I could see their quest journal filling in their brains, of like, well, and they really got obsessed with trying to track down like Mad Mary's daughter. Like that was like, this must be the main plot line we're following. I'm like, no, actually, it's a throwaway subplot, but okay, we'll keep pretending it's the main storyline. Sure.
25 episodes in, they meet Strahd. Oh,
is that why we're here?
Yeah.
Is that what we're doing? And I felt like it was a really bad session. I apologize to the group. One players who's run Curse of Stride's like, no way, dude, don't do that. That was awesome. Don't beat yourself up. That was awesome.
Yeah.
You did great. It's okay.
Yeah.
So, and then my Candlekeep game last week, they decided to go off book.
All
So
right.
I got thrown. I've had 6 days to write a whole new storyline for them completely on my own because of one throwaway comment that one of the characters went, oh, that's a thing. We all need to explore that thing. And me going, well, you know, there's a lot of downsides to you exploring that thing. It could go very badly and this could happen and you might become trapped. But we have to go after the thing.
The thing.
But it was a
Nice.
throwaway line. It wasn't meant to be serious. You weren't supposed to... Oh, shoot. Okay.
Like you've said, Stephen the Guard. You know.
You know, once these adventurers get going on a thing, they don't let go of that thing, don't you know? They just like, they latch on like a badger.
I one time had an adventure where I said to them, I just to add some local color, they were out at night, and I'm like, you see an old fisherman walks past with a burlap bag, you know, on his shoulder, dripping, blah blah blah. What? Oh my God, you know, and they just like surrounded this old man with this, don't come after me, you know, and he's running
I want to
from
make an
them.
insight check to see what he's smuggling in the bag.
Exactly, and then they're running after him, and then they're tackling him. And
Can I roll
he's like,
investigation to see where he's been?
exactly.
I cast Detect Good and Evil.
That's exactly where they went with it. Exactly. And
I
I'm
cast
like,
Detect
"I'm
Magic to
just
see
an
what he's
old
wearing."
Man. I'm just an old man. And he literally was nothing but scene decoration. But players, particularly back then, that was like second edition. They were paranoid as hell. Yeah, you couldn't walk past them with anything. I mean, I'm to blame partially because they were facing a family that was trying to become immortals, and they all wore rings that they could switch places with each other, and there was 9 of them. So I had 9 high-level characters I had made that they could just switch out. So like they would come across the little boy, you know, like a mischievous rogue little boy kind of thing, and they would chase him down an alleyway, and as soon as he would get out of their sight, he would turn into the uncle in plate with, you know, the 2-handed flaming sword. And so they would come around the corner after a little boy, and then the knight would be there, the Black Knight, and then, you know, death and mayhem would ensue. So yeah. Muddy.
We break our players that way.
I know, and that's why they're so paranoid. Like the third time an NPC, you know, totally stabs them in the back, they're just like the next person who comes along. They're like, "Tell us your story, man! Not one more step, or I'll fireball you."
No, do we call that Chekhov's cough? If somebody coughs in the first half an hour of the movie, they're going to ultimately die.
Yeah, yep. Or like falling in love in the series The Walking Dead. If you start to care about someone, you are a dead man.
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty much and that one was really bad about it. It's like there was romance, peril, sex scene, death. Like, and that was the, I mean, that was they went back to that arc. Like, every third character you could track.
Yep.
That was their arc.
Yep.
With the one exception where they went completely off the rails and I stopped watching it because it went romance, sex scene, rape scene, death.
Oh,
and that rape scene was the last episode. I think that's the last episode I ever watched of it.
Right.
I went, yeah, I can't. Nope.
I'm done now.
That one's like that's too far down the road. I can't do that. Not going to go back there.
No.
And even with my Wednesday night group, since they're now in a domain of dread, which Van Richten's Guide to Ravenloft came out this morning at midnight. And of course, I'm like got woken up by my phone buzzing because incoming email. Hey, did you know? Like, I don't need to know that right now. But I actually sat down with the players and really did say, okay, now I need to know your limits. Like, what are some things that are horrific that I cannot put in front of you? And here's, I'm taking sexual violence right off the table right now. That's gone.
Yes.
And then multiple players said, take violence against children off the table.
Yeah.
And to which I went, thank God we're not running Curse of Strahd.
Yep. Yeah, you just run everybody's, ages up if that was the case, and in certain situations and whatnot. The so mid-afternoon today, my phone buzzes and I look at it and it's my local brick and mortar store, and I like, GB speaking kind of thing, and they were like, hey, I'm calling to let you know we've got your copy of Von Richten's behind the counter waiting for you. And I'm like,
which I am not gifted with the site, but I have a strange feeling that you and I next Monday are going to say, have you read Von Richten yet? And we'll both go, yes. Would you like an excuse to read it more thoroughly? Yes. Should we do a review episode?
Exactly.
Yes. But yeah, so yeah, my Wednesday night game did throw that curveball at me, which has been kind of like a crazy, like, I'm gonna mess with you guys, and I feel bad because Jessie is the last one to get back to me. She got back to me with like some backstory stuff yesterday, and I've already fleshed out a lot of the main like terror points, so I feel bad that she's getting left out a little bit of the most horrific things. Which, now that I've said that out loud, maybe I should feel so bad. Because I'm
right. Because she's being left out.
She's being left out of having all of her emotional pressure points leaned on.
Yes, exactly.
So maybe I shouldn't feel so bad about it. Oh, okay. So we've been putting this off. I kicked it around early on, and we said we should. You actually said, "Nah, let's wait a bit," and it's been a bit. And that was the idea of talking about games that are not Dungeons and Dragons, games that, even though we both have a very strong connection to the D&D rule set and the various editions of D&D, which I think frankly have pretty consistently gotten better. Maybe you might argue 4th edition was a parallel advancement as opposed to a direct advancement.
It was a try.
Yeah.
They tried.
Well, it's like unlocking guns in Call of Duty. No one gun is more powerful than another. It's just different. That's how I would call 4th compared to 3rd or 5th to a degree. But we've played lots of other games over the years. And so our thought was that maybe it's time to sit down and start talking about some of these other RPGs, what has attracted us to them, what we have adopted from them into our D&D play, what we stole from D&D to bring into those particular games because the games kind of needed it. And then maybe you suggested, I think, a historical perspective. Let's get some games out there from our childhood and try to limit ourselves to the good ones. Right. So we're not here for months on end doing this because we've got some baggage under us. Yeah. And just talk about some of the things that we like and didn't like and some of the experiences we had. So do you want to kick us off?
Sure.
You started ahead of me by a couple of years.
So you had mentioned starting in the 80s, and in my brain I went, oh yeah, okay, cool. So maybe do them chronological or whatever. And so in my brain I kind of went, this was 80s. This was 90s, this was 2000s, this was two teens, and now two 20s, kind of thing. So I would like to start in the 80s. TSR had put out a slew of games you know, they were riding the coattails of D&D, and they, you know, I mean, there was just a landslide of TSR games that came out. And they played with a bunch of different systems and stuff too. It wasn't like later on when it was D20. Here's everything under the sun for D20. You know, there was D20 Modern and D20, like when 3 and 3.5 came out, D20 Space, D20 Ancient Rome.
Well, they had the D20 GURPS book, basically. Like, this is the D20 system that you can then apply to any system you might want to play. And now here's a bunch of flavor books.
So I had a real hard time with the 80s because, like I said, there was this whole mob of games that came out then. But I decided the one I wanted to spotlight is because it's so weird, and it just was one of those. Well, let's just get into it. Gamma World. It was a post-apocalyptic game, and for its time, you know, it really it changed everything, because it was more like here's a smorgasbord of stuff, pick and choose and put it together any way you want. There was no classes. You know, kind of picked what you wanted to be, and you could be everything from, I mean, there were literal, you know, dozens of anthropomorphic animals you could be who'd been mutated, and you could be a human, you could be a robot, you could be, it just was, for the time, it was like, whoa, no classes, things are skill-based and stuff, wow. And so I, of course, played Panthro, pretty much from Thundercats, a big nunchuck wielding panther person, and the adventure I remember the most was where it had to be 3 or 4 of us died trying to use a med kit. Because technology, if you didn't have the right technology skills and stuff, things, you know, when you have how's the thing go, when significantly advanced technology will appear as magic, and that's kind of where Gamma World was, because the world had ended and had been eons, and so we found this med kit, and we were all beat up, and it was after a fight, so we were all half dead anyway, and then we started trying to use the med kit on each other, and Gurk dead. You know,
yeah. Well, I mean, it's like I have doctor's tools, which means I have a scalpel, I have some chemicals.
Yes.
What do we do to fix the wound? I don't know. Let's spray this in it.
Yeah, exactly. Or this is an auto injector, but the you know, too much. So yeah, so when the third one, I think it was the third one of us died, there was only like 2 of us left, and we were like looking at each other like, we should just throw this away and wander off into the desert. And so we like hucked the med pack into the desert and just wandered off. It kind of killed that campaign, but like I said,
literally,
it was so different and so cool at the time that we had to jump at it. So my pick for the 80s to look up and try is something like Gamma World. DCC has a game that's like Mutants and something else. It's like Mutant Crawl Classics or something that kind of has the same feel as the old Gamma World. It was like 70s sci-fi with an 80s twist, you know. There's magic and science are all mixed together, Thundar the Barbarian style. So
yeah, I remember, like, I think one of the kids in my neighborhood had Gamma World, but we weren't at the time old enough to fully grok what was going on with it. And so I remember like being really excited by the idea of like making a cat person. but not
yes.
like really. We had a hard time figuring out what to do with it at that stage because we were just a little too young. Welcome third tier, and I saw the die on the Discord. Which, by the way, if you have not checked out our Discord, we do have a Discord. You can join. The links are all over the Facebook, all over the webpage for Lantern Noir at twitch.tv. And you can check these out as well. And I have a feeling that the picture doesn't do a great deal of justice for our perspective of to whether it's a good size or not. It looked okay for us, but if it feels small, then you need to make them bigger because dice have a feel, and they'll know if you're not feeling them right, and then they'll roll for crap. So
I see.
So that's where that's going.
A density mojo.
A density, yes. Well, just a perspective. Mine, let's see. For me, I was Dungeons and Dragons up until I got into high school. So that would have been for me the late 80s. 80. I started high school in the fall of 88. Was when I officially went in, and one of the guys that I ended up hanging out with and gaming with, he goes by Reflector. He's been on a couple of my streams as a squad mate. His mother was concerned about Dungeons and Dragons. So she made him promise that if he played role-playing games, he would not play that one. We played everything else under the sun, but Dungeons and Dragons. And the one, I get to be the prop guy.
Nice.
The one that got the most leverage was Robotech, the role-playing game. And this used the Palladium system, which we had no appreciation for how bad it was.
Was it mega damage?
Oh yes, yes, structural damage and mega damage. And mega damage, 1 point of mega damage was 100 points of structural damage, which was meant to represent your giant robots with lasers.
Yep.
Like they just level buildings.
Yes.
But they have a mechanism for managing shooting each other. And up until I think it was fairly late in the run of the RPG, you didn't get mega damage weapons for people.
Right.
Everybody carried standard damage.
Yep.
Which had already been part of their system. Go ahead.
And I think the actual line in the Palladium book for riffs, maybe it was riffs. One of the Palladium games was you can stand and hit an Abrams tank with a baseball bat all day and do no damage.
Oh, it's better than that. Hang on. You're right. Here it is. No, there it is. Now, pounding with all his might against the hull with a baseball bat, the kid is scuffing the daylights out of the paint job, but still does no damage. That scuffing the daylights out of the paint job was one of my favorite lines in an RPG. We played this thing is, despite the mechanical problems with this, and they were things like it had a dodge system, which sounds really cool. I hit you, I dodge, and you would roll to dodge. Created combats where it's like, I roll the hit, I roll the dodge, I roll the hit, you roll the dodge. And it's almost like the bonk, 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 bonk. But now it's bonk, swish, bonk, swish, bonk, swish, bonk, swish.
Exactly.
And it had a percentage skill-based system. You had a percentage possibility of succeeding on a skill check.
Right.
But despite those like foibles, for our teenage brains, it had enough high action.
Yeah.
Enough crazy, wacky toys to play with. Oh my gosh, my character just got assigned to this new battle mech.
Exactly.
Which is so cool. And the books, I mean, the artwork is all taken from the original art styles, which again to the American teenager was like exotic and crazy and nothing like we'd seen before. It was a really I spent a lot of hours playing this game and writing for it, and I wrote with a D&D mindset. So like when I was in charge of writing the game, there were maps and there were encounter tables and stuff. And I even found, that's part about old games, I still have in here a printout, and it's stuck in the binding even, I can't even pull it out, of a memo my character wrote requesting that she not be reassigned from the squad she was with. To whom it may concern, 2 weeks and 3 days ago, I contacted your office to request that my service record be reviewed and evaluation for transfer. And then, due to personal reasons I'm unable to disclose this time, I formally request that the former memo be ignored. So, I don't remember. Like, I'm racking my brain. Like, what happened that my character requested a transfer from the party?
Yeah. Yep.
But something happened.
Yeah.
And I still have a record of it.
So the one of the things with like Palladium and Champions and stuff, there were once the min-maxing began of them, it was kind of not easy, but you could find ways to break the system. And so I'm how to put this, I'm a min-maxer for roleplay effect. So when we played Robotech, my guy was all about can't hit me. You cannot hit me. And he literally, his mech had, I want to say, I don't think he had any ranged weapons. All he had was like a sword, like a, you know, titanium mega. If I hit you, you lose an arm type blade, you know. And my buddy was the, like, you know, mega gun, massive donk 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 daka daka guy. And so the two of us would, you know, buddy up and work together, and it just, that game was really, really fun. Our friend who was legally blind was running it, and it was just amazing. It was just amazing. He had such a good perspective on Robotech at the time, you know. He just really brought the show to us and allowed us to, you know, the missiles are whipping past us and my guy is, you know, samurai kung fu whipping through all them, because like you said, roll the dodge, you can't hit me, dodge, you can't hit me, dodge, you can't hit me.
Yeah, and it was one of those where it was a neat mechanic, and it really worked well in as the sister game that came out around the same time, or was available at the same time, I should say. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles and Other Strangeness, which, if you thought Robotech, you could min-max yourself and break the systems. Holy Jesus. Yep. Wait till you start figuring out what you can do with all the bioenergy you get as like a hamster.
Right. Yep.
And other things. And again, the writing, in retrospect, the writing in the rule books was just clever.
Yeah.
Because it was breaking down things like hummingbird flight. It had a thing that said, remember, a hummingbird is size 1 and it has a light hum. A hummingbird at size 10, which is human sized, sounds like a helicopter taking off. At size 20. And then it just kind of like, it just went ...
Yeah.
And I've actually thought about taking that game out to play with the kids. Because it's goofy, it's fun, it's lighthearted. The combat system, for all of the bonk swish, is really a very easy one to get your head around.
Right.
You know?
Right.
I hit you. Can I dodge? Try.
Yeah, because you've got X%, you roll the dice, blah. Most of those 1980s systems that TSR was putting out were all percentiles. Yep. So, you know, my buddies would sit and be like, duh, we can't, you know, once you went through the math to tell them, yes, you have a 76% chance to hit. There it is, write that down. Then they had it and go, you know.
Bonk swish just makes me think of Morrowind. Fair enough. Fair enough. Although, remember, the combat system was D20 based.
In Mutant Ninja Turtles?
Yeah. Yeah, you still rolled a D20 to hit and then a D20 to dodge, and then you had bonuses.
Yeah, see, I only ever sat in on Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, like because we ran the Gamers Guild, and so it was like they were running a campaign, and one night one guy didn't show, and they were like, "Hey,
we gotta see."
We had a seat. Come play. So yeah, nice, awesome.
Cool. So that I mean, that one carries through the first 2 years of high school. I'll pitch back to you. Do you have another game that's still in that 80s to 90s transition you want to talk about?
So, my 90s game is I don't know why the goofball ones really stuck with me, and I wanted to talk about them. Paranoia. Paranoia is one of those games. Again, I think my brain was thinking, give some love to the games that either have gone by the wayside or have not, don't have current representation or good current representation. I think that's sort of where my brain was, because I mean, like I said, in those 80s games, there was Boot Hill and Traveler and Pendragon. There's a million games from the 80s, because once the role play phenomenon began, it rolled. But Paranoia is a great game where everybody is out to get each other, but yet they're forced to work together. And it's a dystopian society after a nuclear zombie whatever apocalypse, and you're all living in Alpha Complex. And Alpha Complex is run by a massive computer, and the computer asks you things like, you'll walk by a computer terminal and it'll say, happiness is mandatory. Are you happy? and you're playing a set of clones. So you are like R1 and you got your name. Well, each character then is a member of a secret society that you're not supposed to tell anybody else about. And so there's all these secret society subplots that are trying to overthrow the computer, or trying to become the computer's best friend, or trying to become a computer yourself, or you're an anarchist or a communist or whatever. And so yeah, Paranoia was really, it was a campaign usually never lasted more than 3 or 4 weeks, because you were constantly shooting each other in the back and stuff. But it was a lot of fun to play, like, for a weekend, so yeah, that's my 90s prop up for gaming.
Yeah, it sounds a lot like a Among Us, the RPG.
Right. Right. Exactly.
And welcome, Evine. Glad to have you here. I don't have a points command set up. I don't have a points loyalty point system for the show and the streams. I have switched over to Streamlabs bot for most of my bot functions, of which there aren't that many set up. But there is a giveaway later today. I think I have no idea. I've never used the Streamlabs, so if we have enough people, we'll see what happens when we get there and see how it goes. To give out some Lantern Noir branded D20 stickers. Yeah, but we'll get to that. And then Neutrino brings to the point that Morrowind was basically a tabletop game on the computer. And I can definitely see that. In fact, I think the early video games really drew heavily on that RPG that was getting bigger and growing at the time, where we played the most non-D&D games. And it's weird because, like, I grabbed a bunch of stuff off the shelf that I still own books of, and so many of them are from that era, because as I've gotten older, I've picked up a few games, but they haven't really resonated enough to become games I play a lot. They might have some interesting mechanics, but they're not necessarily games where I hold it up and go, this game is amazing, I love running it every week.
Right.
Part of that too is the lack of support, and that's a whole nother podcast. But I think if we're going to talk transition, I'm going to keep being the guy that talks about the big games.
Dude, that's great. That's great. So good.
Let's bring this one up.
Yep.
And that's the Shadowrun. Before we delve into Shadowrun, I'm going to answer that though. Morrowind was released in 2002, but it drew so much on the previous 10 years of other computer RPGs. So, oh crap, what is it? It's the one where you have the 4 characters, you make them at the beginning, you carry them all the way through. They use the first-person view, even though you had your party of portraits at the bottom.
Bard's Tale?
Heroes of Might and Magic.
The Heroes of
or Might and Magic.
Yeah,
I think it was. I think Heroes was the other game. But there was a lot of those elements that kind of grew into and now let's do an open world, I think. But yeah. Shadowrun, which this is first edition.
Mm-hmm.
It still has the original plastic contact paper that I put on it to help maintain the cover. And I also found I still have character sheets tucked into it. I think these are from later years, though. I don't think these were from my high school years, because they've got, like, my friend Robbie has her character sheet in here. And I know she didn't play with me in high school. She was a college friend. So, but I can see where I built my deck using a spreadsheet, because you had to.
Mm-hmm.
And this one was kind of neat, and they've kept it over the years, is the make a giant pile of D6s.
Mm-hmm.
And then roll with a target number.
Yep.
And so something that had a low target number, but you could get a lot of dice for, you could accrue a lot of successes. This one blew our minds because it got away from the fantasy tropes. It was fantasy, but not. It was that first game we played that was, you can do everything. Like, it's like our version of Gamma World.
Right.
There are no classes. There are archetypes.
Yeah.
There's magic. There's guns. There's
Elves,
high tech.
trolls, dwarves.
Yes. Absolutely. And it was. This was the one that really took over. Robotech was like our first 2 years of high school, and then we got old and edgy. We shifted over to Shadowrun, where we were going to like, now we were cool kids because we were no longer freshmen. We're going to play the game with that edge to it, where we rob people and, we work for corporations, but we really work for ourselves. We don't worry about, dirty deeds, done dirt cheap was like on repeat in the car. And so forth and so on. Did you got into Shadowrun at some point, didn't you?
Oh, yeah. So, and I know I've said this on stream before, but Shadowrun is the greatest game I hate to play. I love the aesthetic. I love it, the whole, combination of dystopia and fantasy, and it just, like I said, there is nothing in the world better than being a dwarven, drone jockey, and you've got a sawed off pump shotgun as your backup weapon, and you're flying drones and driving a big truck through the dystopian landscape. But the massive get together 40 some D6s, and you've got a cooler, a Kool-Aid jug chucked full of dice to roll them, and then you're picking 5s and 6s out. I always forget, like, how much I hate to play it, because it's supposed to be fast. It is supposed to be action movie, super bang boom pow wow, kung fu. I'm a physical adept, and I chop and I run up the wall, and it's supposed to be Matrix, but it plays so slow. Because you've got to hit, they've got to try to dodge, then they get an armor save, then you calculate the damage, then then you mark your damage track, look for trauma, or
so many little things to do.
It's
a busy game. It's a busy game.
Yes.
Third Tier said that's code for I only like to play it until I remember why I stopped playing it.
Exactly.
Well, and the first edition was really broken. And if you want to talk about the importance of play testing with RPGs, which the modern RPG writers, I think, have figured out. And even things like saying, oh, you bought Tasha's Cauldron? Yeah, that's not balanced.
Yeah.
Just so you know. Just because it's in there.
Right.
Like, they're very clear that when a player sits down and says, can I use this thing out of Tasha? Your gut reaction should be, no.
Time, 15-yard penalty.
No. Oh, that was in response to the comment about a game having a certain ... charm. Still applies. Still applies. But but this one, they didn't play test it really well, because I remember we cast all of our spells at level 1 or at force 1. So the target for drain was only a 1.
Right.
But your resistances were based off your sorcery attribute.
Yeah.
So the resistance for the bad guy was always a 6, no matter what level you cast it at.
Right.
So,
yeah, because there was no way you were putting less than 6 into your sorcery if you were, if you were that a spell slinger of any ilk.
Yeah, so we were just, spellcasters never had to keep track of fatigue, because they never didn't soak unless things got really, really nuts. And the other weird thing about this, going to mention right now, when you look at the lore section, which is not as much as you would think it would be for a game like this.
Yeah.
If I can find it again. I had my finger in it, I took my finger and I lost it. But there's a lore section that says that in April 30th of 2021, the goblinization began.
Bum, 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 bum.
And the game takes place mostly in like the 2050s. But it's like, I remember that being that, out in the future, this could happen. You know, 2 weeks ago.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, that's beautiful.
But go ahead.
Go ahead. I was going to say, so 5th edition came out. My buddy owns a game shop cafe. If you're in the Austin area, look him up. Emerald Games and Cafe. Anyway, so he owns a game shop, and he wanted to play 5th edition Shadowrun. So I get a surprise package with everything for 5th edition Shadowrun. I mean, it was a heavy package. It was all the books, and everything, and what's it called? It's a program to make characters and everything, because he wanted to play it. They have streamlined a lot. It is better than the ancient ways, but it's still, every time you started a combat, it just grinds to a halt. So
that's rough. Now, Emerald Tavern, this would be Emerald Tavern Games and Cafe.
Yes, in Austin.
So they serve food there too.
Yeah, and beers, and they have board game nights and everything right there on premises.
While we are not sponsored by Emerald Games, we never miss an opportunity to shout out our favorite friendly local game stores. While we do appreciate that sometimes ordering online is easier and faster, the bottom line is the best place and your best chances to meet other gamers in your community for face-to-face gaming, once we're allowed to start doing that again, is going to be at those friendly local game stores. So we absolutely encourage everyone to continue to support them in any way they can. And you'd be amazed at what the owners are going to do on your behalf to help you in the hobby. They do things that Amazon just cannot.
Like I said, they literally called me today and told me my book was waiting behind the counter for me. So I adore them, and it's awesome.
Yep. And there'll be the links in the chat. There'll be a link in the show notes, because I'm doing that now.
Nice.
I'm starting to maintain show notes for us. So if you want to check them out, you can do that. I'm willing to bet they are willing to ship. So, in fact, you know what? No, I think I wanted to ask you about Shadowrun. So I want to look up something while I'm asking you about it. But the question being, for when you played Shadowrun, what was your favorite character you played?
Ooh,
what was your go-to?
So my go-to was Dwarven Drone Jockey, of course, and that's just kind of a go-to forever. I am also always partial to trolls, but the last character I played was the heck was his name? It was a play on a book title, and I can't remember it, but he was basically he was a street shaman, and he was like, I think his code name was like Gutter Snipe or something. And he was literally, you know, the hoodie wearing elf who, you know, lived in the park, you know, trying to defend nature. This little small park in the middle. We were playing in Detroit. And so it was this like little vestige of like 6 trees that still stood in Apocalypse Detroit, and it was his nature realm to defend, kind of thing. So that was my last character. But yeah, I usually, particularly I've played, I'm gonna say, all the Shadowrun RPGs that have come out for computer, and I almost always make, you know, Greybeard, and he's a dwarf, and he's, you know, all about the drones and stuff. So
nice. I started with a Decker.
Yeah.
I had a Decker. She was the woman in the party, because every party needs to have some balance. Even back then, I was thinking that. And her street name was Gigo.
Ooh, neat.
Garbage in, garbage out. And at the time, I thought it was really like, I was being really like, you know, because that's an attitude, man. If you're putting garbage in, you're going to get garbage out. You need me, so the good stuff goes in.
Yeah.
And that was back when I thought Deckers were going to be fun to play.
Yes. And the one thing I will say about 5th versus every other edition before it is they finally made the Decker mobile. In every game I had played until 5th, the Decker was the guy. Generally, it would be the rigger, the drone jockey, sitting in his truck with the Decker on guard duty, you know, to protect the Decker while the Decker was hacked in and doing his thing. They finally got past that in 5th and made it all like wireless and weird, and they could affect equipment as they are going along and stuff. So it really, they really patched that, if nothing else.
Well, because they reckoned, I mean, they'd struggled for a Decker in the context here, is the term they used in that universe for computer hacker. And I think it may have been partially to avoid the idea of having the word hacker, because this was the 80s. Yeah. And this was a period where everyone was really scared about hackers and everyone getting into computer systems, because computers were that new scary thing. And they got the nickname Decker because they used what was called a cyber deck to as their supercomputer they could carry with them. But not just carry with them, plug their brain into. Yeah. And I think what I love talking about Shadowrun from the historical point of view was it had cybernetics, the idea that you would replace a limb with a robot limb that you could control with your brain, and going, that's insane. And then looking over the last 15 years and going, yep, nope, we do that. Yep, we do that. That's a thing now. And it's not even ones where it's like subtle shoulder movements, because that for like a while, that's how the artificial limbs worked. You made little moves with your shoulder and you could work your articulated hand. But now they're at the point where they can hardwire your nerves into it. And it's like, that's not science fiction.
Well, the thing that was so amazing too back then is I really liked the fact that that magic was real. And there was this overarching spirituality thing going on too. So like the more cybernetic you became, the less in touch with the magic of the world you were in. So you could be, you know, double mega armed troll, you know, with like dermal plating and, you know, these spikes coming out of your skull, and someone would go, charm person, and you just have no resistance to magic because your spirituality had been so drained by all this physicality. It just it was a beautiful balance. I got goosebumps, you know.
Well, and the rule books were so rich in lore and side jokes. There was one device you could get if you had cyber ears, if you'd had your ears replaced with microphones. They had an add-on you could buy that was called the Select Sound Filter. And the logic was you could, for example, set it to cancel the sounds of your own gun. So you wouldn't be distracted. Or you could set it to have certain maximum peaks so that you wouldn't be affected by flashbangs.
Right.
Because you wouldn't hear the bang as loudly. It would automatically muffle it. And of course, in a little commentary on the page for it, one commenter leaves the note that since he set his correctly, he hasn't had to deal with a fight with his old lady in weeks. And it's like, okay, that's a joke. It's a clever one for the circumstance. But that's like you didn't see that in other rule books,
right?
For games, that level of like, let's really make it was called the Street Samurai catalog, and it read like a catalog.
Oh my god, yes. God,
set it to play K-pop. Well, it was meant to filter out, so you could filter out the K-pop if that's the thing you don't want to be hearing.
But if I remember correctly, you could have like a jaw phone / radio in, so you could have this implant or the discs that you could put into your head, so you could
the
play
knowledge
music.
softs.
Yeah,
plug the chip in, and suddenly you know everything you need to know because it just interfaces with your memory cortex.
I know kung fu. You know,
and the Matrix does not come out for several years.
Exactly,
if memory serves.
Oh, correct.
So that idea of like, we're just going to download into your brain how to do things. Yeah, that's my first exposure to that as a trope was Shadowrun.
Yeah.
Which I think is why it's like such, for me, a formative game in a lot of my enjoyment of modern media is filtered through that. But we did this in Shadowrun.
Yeah. Yep.
Kind of things. Up to and including the wonderful trope of, there are 3 guards. Send the chick to talk to them.
Oh,
really?
Yeah, you said that.
Really, guys? Really? Well, that's why you made one, right? No.
No, not at all.
No.
Oh,
a little bit. I was a teenage boy. A little bit. A little bit. But and I guess before we get completely out of the pier, I got one more book I got to show off.
Sure.
And that is and there's not. I don't want to say a lot on it today, but I still have my original first edition Star Wars.
Nice.
The RPG.
Yeah, West End, if I remember correctly.
West End Games.
Yep.
Still has the character sheets in it. I have a couple characters still tucked into the folds. It still has a hole in one of the pages from where a bird pooped on it. Because I was reading it at my lifeguarding job. Outside, I went out to have lunch. I put the book in front of me, and a bird pooped on it while I was reading it.
Oh, that's beautiful, man. That's beautiful. Oh,
did I know there's a whole Shadowrun video game series? There is. I've never delved deep into it. Is it any good?
So I've it's one of the only RPG games that I have finished the 3 or 4 that are out there. And I buckled down and I fought through them because almost every RPG game gets to this point that where they want it to be interactive and they want it to be role play, but it becomes a situation where I gotta go get the bone to give to the dog, to get the fish for the cat to give to the chicken hawk. You know, it gets this thing where you're running circles and you have to talk to everyone, and you're like, no, you need to pace this like a movie. You know, you can't, you're stretching it out by making me run across town and then run back across town. And then once I get the answer, I have to go to a third guy. And
are there
but
combat
the third
encounters
guy,
on the way?
Yeah, sometimes.
Well,
but that's what
that.
I said is there's a lot of times in RPGs that's what kills it for me, is that there'll be a long role play section where it's just read, lore dump, and I'm like, you're not keeping me interested here, and I kind of bomb out on them. But because this was Shadowrun and I didn't have to do the math, it played nice. All of them were really good. The stories were great. They did a great job of the interactions and stuff. So other than the talk quests, they were great. So.
Yeah. And well, I know that as soon as I saw it on Steam, I bought it.
Mm-hmm.
I saw it in early access, and I'm like, take my money.
Mm-hmm.
I think I didn't play very far because I did kind of get overwhelmed with the, oh, this is a lot of walking and talking. Like, let me see the combat system.
Yes.
Let me kill some thugs for a bit and see how this all works.
Yep.
And then I think I got bored with it. I should go back to that at some point. Maybe I'll do like a bonus stream.
Yeah. So, as a side note, one of them, not by the same company as like, I can't remember what they're all called now for some reason. One is like Shadowrun Hong Kong, Shadowrun Berlin, Shadowrun something else, and then there was one called Shadowrun Chronicles, which was a multiplayer tactical game.
Ooh.
And if you just want a turn-based shoot 'em up to play with your friends, and like I said, it's turn-based, so it's not, you don't have to be, all twitchy and have manual dexterity because it's turn-based. It's called Shadowrun Chronicles, and it's really, really fun to just play with other people, and you can make your Shadowrun characters into Shadowrun characters in there, and you go on missions, and it very much is their storylines and things, but they're just encounters kind of strung together with very short interactions with your, with your Johnson, or no, Johnson's in Cyberpunk.
Nope, that's
right?
Shadowrun, Mr. Johnson.
It is Shadowrun. Okay, Mr. Johnson.
Oh yeah, because that was before the Big Johnson became the joke.
Yes.
Which was very disappointing to all of us RPGers had been talking about meeting with your Johnson.
Exactly.
And yeah, that was definitely I think they just wanted to avoid Smith. So they went with like the next most common name.
Yeah.
And I don't know, somewhere they pissed off the wrong person that did not work out as they had intended.
And so I would recommend that one. If you don't want to have all the talking and stuff, play that. You can have like 5 characters, 5 different characters at a time, and they, it is not Shadowrun the game, because the Shadowrun series is literally you put your points in and you buy stuff just like 5th edition. Chronicles is more of a video game kind of thing where you buy stuff, but it's through your class, and it's a little more structured.
It's harder to break your character by doing it wrong.
Yeah.
Which is always the challenge with games that I think they learned over the years is if you didn't put up some guide rails, people would make some really horrible choices and then find out once they started playing. And that creates an unfun experience for people. Yeah.
Or the opposite, the min-max, where I think it was Champions, where you can make Superman for a single character point. If you take the right amount of flaws and the right skills, all told, it comes up to a grand total of like 1 character point and, and stuff, so there's some seriously broken systems out there. But
absolutely. But Shadowrun carried me through most of high school. Star Wars, we played a pretty good amount in high school. And as much as I enjoyed the game, I don't think enjoyed the time with my friends, I should say. I don't think the game stuck out as this breakthrough RPG mechanic that was like earth-shatteringly amazing and necessary for life to continue. So that was what would you bring up next in our collection of games that are not D&D but are amazing games from our past?
So we would jump then to, that was the 90s. So the early 2000s, I was introduced to an older game called Harnmaster.
You've mentioned Harnmaster. Tell me more about Harnmaster.
I love Harnmaster so much. It is widely considered the most detailed fantasy world ever written. You can literally go here on a map and they will lead you down a path. If you get the right books and right things, you will know who the local lord is. You will know who the peasants are. You can, go right down to the most infinitesimal like details. It is, I always say to people, Harnmaster is playing a book. It's so much more like playing Pillars of the Earth, or
That's not just a book.
yeah. Yeah. By Ken Follett, or
Yes.
or the Saxon Tales by Cornwell, or it's really so much more like playing a book. And if you if you do it all random, it's one of those like 80s games that that you can end up seriously fudged before the end of character creation. Like, you could roll so badly. You could be a slave who had the pox and was, abducted by pirates, and you could end up missing an eye before the game even begins, because you play a life. You literally, character creation, you decide how old you want to be when the game begins, and you quick play through that time period. For instance, one of my favorite characters ever was Tam the Clutch. Okay, he was born a slave. He ran away. He made it to the big city. He didn't get caught and sent back and whipped or whatever for being an escaped slave. He had to spend like 4 years as a longshoreman before he could finally get on board a ship and become a real sailor. Became a sailor, was a sailor for 5 years, and then and then ended up at a port and became a pimp. And he was a pimp for 2 years. And but he had, along the way, he had learned to read. And in this game, the ability to read made you someone special. So this sailor pimp scumbag character who was an alcoholic, literally had would go to people when people would like, get out of here, you bum. He'd be like, what does that say? Pointing to a sign or something, and the person would be like, I don't care what it says. And he says, yes, of course you don't. And he would pull that highbrow thing on people all the time. Anyway, like I said, Harnmaster is really playing a book. It's got so much depth and things, and it's one of those that it's so, if you just looked at it and tried to create a character, you would be like, the great Cthulhu madness would ensue. You would, doors have been opened that should not. Why did we break this ancient seal? But if someone there is there to help you and walk you through it, you go, oh, really? That's what that is? Oh, cool.
Well, and that reminds me of a lot of the RPGs I played through college.
Mm-hmm.
I understood enough to play them, but there's no way I could have played them or run them on my own. There was just too much nuance. Plus, it's also neat too, because I know that Traveler has that same, or had that same, I don't know if Traveler is still current. Hey, let's see what happened to you on your way here with, oh, by the way, there's a 5% chance you're going to die.
Exactly.
And you have to start your character over. And even I just noticed, because I got it for Christmas, but I'd never cracked it. Zanzibar's Guide to Everything for 5th edition D&D has that, here, let's roll randomly to see what happened to you before you became an adventurer.
Right.
So these are elements that are still moving in, still part of modern gaming. Even if they're not necessarily like front and center, they're definitely in the mix.
So, and I'm going to tie this into Morrowind. The thing is that it's, like I said, if you have someone who knows how to play and they explain it to you, it becomes like, oh, that's easy, but getting there is hard. Now, again, I say it's like playing a book, because things like, I always tell the story, my buddy who was a knight, he had rolled as a noble and blah, 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 and he started the game with chainmail, you know, and stuff, and he got hit and took a wound, it got infected, and he spent a month in game time, a month dying of sepsis, and his character died, and he never went back. He would never, to this day, will never ever play Harnmaster because of that, because he wants to be a hero and he wants to take a health potion and ba-doing, jump back up off the ground and go. This is a game where it's the journey that matters. You know, it's the how do I survive? What is going on? And there's machinations and politics. And to put it this way, Tam eventually, the way Tam died was an assassin's cult had captured him, and they were using him as a trial for their new recruits. But in cult lore, if you can defeat 7 of their recruits, you become a recruit. You become an assassin. They just let you in. So if 7 of their students can't defeat you, you now are accepted into the cult.
That's awesome.
Ham died surrounded by 5 dead assassins in a pitch black maze, you know, with one of their daggers in his hands when he finally like bled out and stuff. So he was like 1 or 2 assassins away from becoming an assassin, you know, and stuff. So yeah, so like I said, the book, the game itself is it's huge. It's gigantically huge. But if you ever get to a convention and someone is running Harnmaster and they can just slide you a character sheet and you can play Harnmaster.
Yeah, so. I'm totally down with that as a, like, yeah, it sounds amazing. And again, the elements that we see in the modern gaming make a lot, like, you can see their roots in this kind of like historical look at RPGs. As well as just like some neat elements there where there's a lot of fun. I think there's a lot too to be said to the games that have a really high complexity, especially compared to, I mean, all things considered, 5th edition AD&D is super streamlined compared to what else has been out there.
Yeah.
And
so, real quick, as an example, the thing is it's got that Game of Thrones element, because technically with the right roll you could take down a dragon with a single shot. Black arrow, fly true, you know. There used to be a blog out there, I think it was called The Weatherman's Tale, and it was this guy writing about his Harn campaign, and it gives a better example of Harn than I could ever explain. One last thing about Harn, I know I'm taking a big hunk of time, but there is a bit in the book, and I can never do it justice, but I'm gonna try. They explain the difference between Harn and other RPGs. You come towards the town gate, the town guard. Whoa! Where's the war? What do you mean? I mean, the armor and the weapons, you don't have noble insignia. Well, these are to protect myself. Wait, well, that's what us guards are for. This is a city. This isn't some wilderness. Well, but what if I had to protect myself from bandits? Well, then you call the guards, you know, and it just goes on, and it's just such a great cross section of, like I said, the difference between playing a fantasy game and playing like a medieval novel with fantasy elements. That is the big difference. It's, you know, well, we'll hold your weapons until you leave the city. Thank you very much, you know, type thing. The first time my friend played it, I may have told this story before, but he was the local lord's houndskeeper. and he mouthed off to the local lord, and the local lord backhanded him. And this guy had never played really. He'd played like maybe a half dozen sessions of D&D before. And he swore vengeance upon that lord as a character, you know.
Yep.
And that's more like a book, you know, because
absolutely
would never happen in D&D.
Well, and more like a Game of Thrones or a Pillars of Eternity or a medieval drama that plays out over generations.
Yes.
Than say a anything by Mercedes Lackey.
Robert Jordan?
Or Robert Jordan. Or Tracy Hickman or Margaret Weiss, where it's
our
like
Salvador.
Yeah. These are like, you know, oh, our scrappy band of adventurers are going to go out and do the thing. Yeah. This is kind of like we're going to have to wrap up soon.
Yep.
And obviously, we still have a ton of games to talk about that are not D&D that we've enjoyed. I'm going to wrap up on one of the games that I played a bit in college. I keep on my shelf. I cannot wait to run it at the friendly local game store I'm bored, so I'm going to spend a few minutes writing up a post because tomorrow night we're going to play this. And that is Teenagers from Outer Space. The premise of this game is that aliens have found Earth. Oh, hey, CJ. And have decided that they want to offer us our technology if the Earthlings can do one thing for them. Help them manage their teenagers. Because unlike the rest of the universe, we have solved the teenager problem by inventing high school.
Right.
So aliens from around the galaxy come to Earth just to put their kids in our high schools.
Yep.
And they bring all of their high technology with them. It's pretty much, now that I'm a little more removed from it, it's pretty much a game of trying desperately to get laid and failing at every turn. And that is like the whole premise. And the thing is, mechanically, it's not really a game.
Right.
Your character has a handful of stats, which are numbers, and then you roll a d6 and add it to your stat.
Yep.
And that is the whole and the short of the mechanics.
I got to play it in a one-shot over on Laugh Love Lindy's channel. And so, yeah, I have played it. I have never looked at it or run it. It was more of a, here is a character sheet. It took like seconds really to make up with the thing. I will, if I can find it, I will post in a Discord or maybe a tweet, a picture of the day we played. I took my hair and made a mohawk and wore my old army jacket and stuff. So it was a lot of fun. I hope that you get your day at the table with that and just have a great time.
Well, and the reason I pull it out as a game that's not D&D that I like is it's one of my favorite games I've played, kind of like Paranoia, where it's not meant to be taken seriously. It's not one where you say, am I going to win? It's meant to be, and especially now that I'm older, I can appreciate the drama of being a teenager with a little more distance. Like,
yes.
The 20-year-old me was still very much in a teenager mindset.
Yeah.
The 40-year-old me is very much in the, what an idiot those 20-year-olds are. I still have an affection for everyone that's hanging out on chat.
We do.
But we love you. But as you get older, you look at your 20-year-old self and go, oh, God, why did I think that was smart? Why did I think? Or more importantly, and now this is legit adult advice, or aged advice, I should say, a legit elder advice. You look at your 20-year-old self and you think, why did I think that was important? And that's the biggest thing as an elder gamer, how many hours I put into things in my 20s that were just not important. No effect on my life now.
But they did make you the person you are today.
They did.
So
they did. But this is just it's a fun, fluffy, it's easy to put on the game table. It's easy to explain to I almost pulled off Toon. I have Toon. I've had Toon since the 90s.
Yeah.
But this, I think, is even easier to put in front of a non-gamer to say, we're going to play a role-playing game tonight. It's called Teenagers from Outer Space.
Yeah.
And because you can pitch the universe to them.
Mm-hmm.
It's high school.
Yeah.
With aliens.
And everyone has pretty much been in high school, unless you got a middle schooler at the table.
But well, if you got a middle schooler at the table, don't play this.
Right.
They won't get it.
Yeah. Gotcha.
That's and again, and things too. It's like they make a great point in here about the fact that it's supposed to be about comedy and fun. And I don't know if I can find it on the fly. I should have bookmarked it. But it has to do with the idea of failure is funny. Is a big trope that they go to in here. And they hit on some other tropes. For example, one of the fun lore bits is that no one has ever seen the high school principal. Everyone has seen the vice principal. He's who you go to when you're in trouble. But nobody goes to the principal.
Right.
And those who do come back visibly disturbed, unable to talk about the experience. Which is one of those like, okay, I like that trope. That's a fun trope. I keep that trope for other games that I play that are not this. So it's a lot of fun to go to. I think it's an amazing game. It's a lot of fun. It's like my top pick of fun games to reference and bring up.
Yeah. You had a pinned thing I want to make sure we get to before we run out of time. You said pin it for the end.
We did. It was we had a question from the chat, which is a good one to bring up. That was, if you could only play one game for the rest of your between the two, Morrowind or Skyrim.
Oh, okay.
What would you pick?
I would have to go with Skyrim almost exclusively for fast travel. Also too, I know how to break Skyrim. Never go to the first tower. If you never go to the first tower, the dragons don't enter the world. And you can literally play out the rest of the game and never see a dragon unless you accidentally go by that tower and then the encounter starts, and then you'll be very angry at yourself for forgetting that you're not supposed to go there. So Skyrim, and it's so modded and has so much DLC at this point. Morrowind literally has been deemed the walking simulator, the fantasy walking simulator, and it really needed a fast travel component, but I do like the open end of it. What I liked about the game in between, Oblivion played a lot like Harn. You had a birth sign, and the time of year mattered, and a bunch of other stuff along those lines. So for me, I would pick Skyrim.
I think for the modability, I would take Skyrim as well. I feel like if I can only have one forever, that would be my go-to, just because I know that those mods are out there that just keep there's just so much more modability. I would probably keep playing that indefinitely. Like I would just stay with that forever, which is a lot of fun. That's between the two.
There's whole YouTube channels who are just dedicated to the mods of Skyrim.
Have you tried? You say there's no fast travel, but have you tried super buffing your strength and jumping across the map in a single leap? Okay, that's legit. If you want to break things a little bit, I can see that. But yeah, that'd be. I think we're both the Skyrim people. I do appreciate Morrowind. I
Mm-hmm.
think is a great title in the journey of video games because it
Yes.
laid the foundation for the mods that went on to become what we saw in Skyrim,
And
for
Oblivion.
taking those mods and dialing it up to 11
Yeah.
and just really adding so much to a game as a user, even more than they were doing with, like, Neverwinter Nights said, go off and make a module. Here's
Right.
a toolkit. And then they made a campaign in the toolkit.
Right.
Whereas Skyrim said, here's an awesome game. And now we're going to figure out with the tools we learned about in Morrowind, how to help you customize the game
Right.
and go a step further with it all.
I mean, yeah, just terrain mods alone
Mhm.
are mind-boggling. You know, the trees and the flowers and making everything, you know, pop, and sunlight effects, and you could just push and push and push till your system literally can't handle it anymore. You
It's
know,
rendering too much.
It's so gorgeous. You know.
Yeah,
So-
I hear you. So what have you got coming up this week? What's your big highlights you want to talk about before we wrap up today and go home and, in some cases, cook dinner?
Exactly. So, I believe. Sorry. Wow. Bourbon's kept catching up to me. I believe we have masks this Thursday over on Indoor Adventures channel. We are back at that's 8:30 Eastern Standard Time for masks, the next generation. And then where poor Golden Gauntlet, my character, will be finding out that his love and rival are getting together, and someone will indubitably mumble the meme phrase, "Harold, they're lesbians." That will definitely be muttered on Thursday. And then Sunday, 10 o'clock Eastern Standard Time, I will be playing with all my toys, and we will be playing Griftlands again. I always get excited when the developer likes my posts when I put out a post about playing. So I love it. And then back here on Tuesday. Simple, easy peasy schedule for streaming right now. Someday I'll be doing 5 games a week again. We'll see that when that happens. That's it for me.
Cool. For me, Wednesday night, tomorrow night, 7:30 to 8 o'clock ish. We're going to start. We're starting late because my son has an orchestra concert, and I don't want to cancel because it's not going to go that late. But I did email the teacher to say, so I need to know when I'm going to be home because I have a tutoring assignment I want to try to keep because I don't dare say I run a D&D game. And we're going off script. This is the one where it's like, okay, Jansen's demons manifest in the Shadowfell, and I expected them all to go, oh, that's really interesting. Not, if they've manifested, I can kill them.
Bum, bum, bum.
We need to stay until I've killed them. And it's like, did not plan for that, but we can try. Sure. So I've had to write some stuff. I think I've got some good stuff brewed for them. We'll see. We'll see if my game lasts this week. They have their first experience of me writing expressly for them.
Right.
Scenery of Skyrim is very distinct. Yeah, though that's fair. That's fair. That it is Skyrim. It's not like Elder Scrolls Online where you really get the full pantheon. Friday night, I know I have allocated time that I want to play some more Mass Effect Legendary. I know I'm probably playing that Saturday night as well. So I want to get some time in on that. And then Sunday, we're continuing with Curse of Strahd. They've met Irina. They've met Strahd. They're right ahead of Barovia. Oh, yeah. Strahd showed up at the funeral for the Burgomaster in my game. I decided to go the opposite. A lot of people say, oh, you reveal him very late. I'm like, no. I want him front and center at the very beginning where you're like, oh, this is the guy we're up against.
Right.
So that every time he mucked with them, they remember, this is the guy that showed up at the funeral and was like the ultimate jerk gentleman.
Right. Oh, nice.
Like,
Yeah.
Okay. Because apparently I can't flirt when I DM and roleplay, but apparently I can do jerk gentleman really well.
Yeah, good.
So that's what I've got coming. I'm going to shut down my first giveaway using stream bots, and it seems to be pretty good. And there we go. Woo-hoo! That worked out. Third tier. You're on our Discord, so send me an address and I'll ship you some stickers. Congratulations. Thank you for being a regular here. It's great to have you in many of our streams. But you will be getting Lantern Noir branded Rainbow D20s. And then we're gonna be back next week. I think next week can we just say now that next week we're gonna be doing our review of the Van Vlichten book? Can we just get that out of the way?
I guess we'll give some snippets and bits and bobs to get the hype train going. Like, did you read chapter 6? That kind of thing. For our normal planning sessions on Monday and Tuesday.
Absolutely. So if you're listening to the podcast, thank you for listening. We appreciate you coming along. Please consider leaving a review on Apple Podcasts so that other people can find this podcast for themselves. The biggest problem with this is sometimes without those reviews, things get lost in the shuffle. We so appreciate you having here. Until next time, please stay safe. If you're here on Twitch, thank you for being part of the stream, part of the sticker giveaway, part of the chat. It's great to have a live audience for these. It makes it so much easier, I think, to do this. Streamer etiquette, I gotta send you somewhere. So let me see who's up and running while my deck loads or crashes in some cases.
I will tell another quick Harn story real quick then, if we have a second while you're getting that set up.
Yeah, go for it.
I went to a convention. No one showed up at the game, and there were 2 kids sitting on the side. We brought them over. We talked them into. They had never played Harn. They had only ever played D&D. They got in board. We got going. It was a Viking theme campaign. I was the old Viking. The very first combat started up. The shield wall formed. My guy, I don't have no shield. I got a great big 2-handed axe. First guy chopped him in the neck, dead. These 2 kids were like, Jesus Christ, you could just die in a single hit, and they were losing their minds. By the end, they were like, we need to play this game, because it ended with one of them doing I think it's called a hoggermog something, where basically there's bear skins on the ground, your wrists are tied together, and the weapons they chose were maces. So they were tied together and beating each other with a mace to decide who the ruler of the island would be. Yeah, basically who would rule Iceland kind of deal. So I can never, ever, and I will always talk about Harn because it is a deep, deep love of mine.
It sounds amazing. Third tier has asked us to rate, and since they also won the sticker, I think that's a great idea. Accessible Gamer is currently playing Valheim, so we're gonna head over that way per the request. I was about to send you to Nebula Gaming. She is also streaming. I think this is her first stream in about 3 weeks. Since I did get that 3rd tier. Thank you. I will have those out in the next couple of days. But she's just back to streaming. So if you have not checked out her streams, she is an amazing streamer. She plays in our Sunday night game. She's actually who got me into many ways. She formed my stream code, as it were. I've taken a lot of cues from her, and she's been a great guide and a younger, older sister.
Right. A younger, older sister.
The raid is ready to go. We're going to get out of here. I got to go make some tacos. You got stuff to take care of. We will be back here next week. Follow us on Twitter at Greybeard Tavern or at Lantern Noir. And we usually spend Sunday and Monday talking about what we're going to talk about on Tuesday to kind of hash out a show for y'all. Yep. So feel free to give us a follow over there. And then obviously come on back next Tuesday. Bring something to drink. Make sure it's ample enough to get through the afternoon. And we'll see you all then.